This is the UK Brad Show with Penny Williams and Mark Challoner.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hi, Pen.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. Are you?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to summer and getting away.
Looking forward to some sort of normality, yeah?
Some sort of normality, yeah. Some of the events that I do are starting to come back in. I've got potentially a Christmas light booking for November.
Wow. That means you putting on the show?
Yeah.
Excellent. In Kent?
Yeah, give me a call for lighting and staging and event production.
Perfect. And what about, because you also do the event for Leeds Castle, don't you, the summer event?
Yeah, we're full systems ahead. A lot of people rolled over their tickets. So we've secured our sponsors again, Embracious, the solicitors, and we're going for it, and sold quite a few tickets this weekend, actually. So I do think there's pent-up demand, and I think flag waving and being out in the summer is just
perfect, isn't it?
Everyone wants to look forward to.
Perfect. And I'm right in saying you're also heavily involved, or even putting on there's a country and western show as well.
There's the Black Deer Festival.
Black Deer, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yes, a friend of mine runs that. I don't actually. I'm not involved in it, but it's a fabulous.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. It's really good. Yeah.
Festival down in Tunbridge Wells. Really worth going to see. And they had to move it a week, so that at the end of the June now. So after the 21st, obviously. So Black Deer.
I'm not a huge country western fan at all, but I saw the video and the pictures that you posted in recent years.
Yeah,
it looks really, really good. It looks like a good fun day out.
Great, it's a great event. 3 days actually. Yeah, great.
3 days. Oh wow, right. So, this week, Pen. By the way, I'm going to just put this out there now. We've got some great guests coming on the show, haven't we, in a few weeks' time? And before we reveal who they are, we're going to say that at the end and keep people in suspense till the end. For some fantastic guests.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, before we do get to the end, to start the show, I thought we'd just continue what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, which was about this balance between work and home life and working from home now and all the rest of it. And I did some slides for a presentation talking about the boundaries the business leaders should set between home and work life. So, and also I've got a bit about an update about payments, the update on payments. Of course, since COVID, everyone's sort of gone down to the supermarket and paying with the phone or the credit card these days, and the whole world of...
Yeah, we're so much more used to it, aren't we? And we don't want to touch anything anymore.
No, we don't. And I think that, that people are changing the way they do things now in terms of...
Yeah, and I think, going back to your work-life balance, I think that the hybrid of working from home and having some meetings in the office or wherever is going to be the norm going forward. Technology's really upped. We've sped forward 5 years probably, haven't we, with some of the technology adoption.
Yeah, we have.
So it's definitely here to stay.
So I'll give some updates at the end of the show about the types of new payments coming forward beyond what we've seen already as well, actually. So that's really interesting, I think. But to start with, if you can see my screen, I was going to talk about these boundaries which leaders said there were 5 things which help business. And again, we are, as we always try to do in this show, try to talk about businesses big and small, and these principles I'm about to say apply to anyone. For happier and more productive days working remotely, it's worth putting some measures in place to minimize the inevitable work-life blur, if you like, caused by working from home. So there are challenges from working from home, and they're saying that 3 hours, that's the additional amount of time that those new to remote working log each day while working from home. And this is a new survey from last year, and they're saying that many benefits to remote working are there to see, but it's, that certainly isn't one of them. It's part of what experts call this work-life blur, as I said. So when you can be at your desk straight after breakfast and take your laptop downstairs with you after dinner, the work extends beyond the usual 9 to 5 as being you're almost always on then, and it leaves many people, particularly leaders and bosses, as they feel more responsible, feeling as if they're never entirely away from work, nor fully, they're never entirely at work, or then they're nor fully away from it either. So it's a state that needs to be increased in terms of awareness of it, because it just leads to stress and worry. And you're seeing so many times. I feel that as well sometimes. You just can't, you do feel like you're always on, don't you? And especially if you're a smaller business, you feel like you've got to be there for everyone all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
You must feel that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So clearly there are benefits on insisting on a separation between work life and personal life. And there's some research which was done in the US from this organization. It's in the university called the Purdue University. And they effectively manage big work-life boundaries through surveys they do. And they say that their summation is you can reduce role conflict and enhance the well-being of employees and teams and organizations, and reduce stress and burnout and enhance mental and physical health if you follow certain rules. And these are these 5 things that they were saying. So the first one is all about faking a commute. So, you may have found elements of your sort of pre-COVID commute annoying, but at least it was your time. When I'm on the tube or whatever, it's your time away from all the stresses from, dare I say, home life and from work, other work life. While you're on the tube, you can't really do much work, so you don't.
Yeah.
It's just time to switch off before you get immersed in the day. And it's a sort of, it's like when you do I'm doing a run this morning and you do a little workout first, a walk where you gear yourself up to running, which is the same thing as that. You gear yourself up to the main event, don't you, by going on the tube or getting to work or whatever it is you do. So while you've since gained back time by not having to commute, the chances are you've lost that me time too, because you're just, as we said earlier, straight into work. So you've got to reclaim it by giving yourself just like, say, 15 minutes every morning to step outside your house and take a walk around the block, or, before you start your day, if you can do that.
Well, they say half an hour, isn't it? Half an hour a day walking is
whatever you can afford the time.
So good for you.
So the fresh air and the chance to get the blood pumping will set you up for the day. So when you cross back over the threshold, then it's time to get down to work, and you sort of mentally get used to that as if you were still going to work. So it's not rocket science, but it's something you just don't think about. So the second one was making your tech work for you. So technology is great for synchronizing all your parts of your life, whether it's your phone or your MacBook or whatever, but it can work against you when you want to mentally separate your work and your home life. So if possible, what this survey said was create separate work and personal email accounts, separate work and personal phone numbers, and even, desk phones, home phones, and turn off your notifications on your work device at the end of the workday. That's difficult to remember to do that, but there's a point to that, isn't there? That you can just get immersed in 24/7. And that girl in the picture there, I think, just summed up for me as a photograph. She's like, you do feel that way, don't you? Like,
yeah, you do. Well, it's tiring being on Zoom all day, isn't it?
It is. And then the third one was scheduling a lunch break. So what they're saying, and I totally get this, although we're working now, and it's 1 o'clock as far as we're concerned, recording this.
That's true.
Is say no to 1 p.m. meetings. But I think this is fun, Pen, not just work.
Yeah, it is fun. You're absolutely right. I should be walking in the woods right now.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, say no to 1 p.m. meetings, or 2 p.m. That's your normal lunch hour, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be hard to stop for a meal in the middle of the day, especially when you've got plenty of demands on your time. And again, when you're a small business, you're constantly feeling you need to be there for people. But you've got to start treating lunchtime like another meeting, one that starts on time and that you can't get out of going to. Put it in your calendar and set you out of office, and then step back from your desk and enjoy something. Even try getting outside for some fresh air again, or maybe there's a positive knock-on effect to your afternoon because of it. And this research said that nearly 90% of US employees claim that taking a lunch break helps them feel refreshed and ready to get back to work in the afternoon. And you can see why. But it's so easy, isn't it? Just to I'll have a quick sandwich at my desk while I'm still working. And the fourth one is wind down every day. So when you work from home, it can be hard to ever really feel finished for the day in the same way you might if you're putting on your coat and leaving for the office at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So to help you get in the right mental headspace, it can help to develop a wind down routine at the end of each day. So decide on a regular time that you'll shut your inbox or shut the office in effect, and check your calendar for tomorrow's meetings, and write a to-do list of things to tackle, and you're ahead of the game for tomorrow. Then power down and switch off your laptop, and turn off all your other electronics. And if you can leave the room when you've been working in and until at least the next day, even better. But that's difficult when you're working from home. But if you can have a separate space just to work from, do it. And
yeah,
then
you've got to separate it. A lot of my friends have built sort of offices in the bottom of the garden, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it is difficult to have that, how do you actually wind down? I suppose you've got to walk down the bottom of the garden.
Yeah. But I think this is more about if you've got a spare bedroom, and you use that to do your working from if you can. And then come out of that, which you're not a room you're not going to use in the evening, then so you've left the office.
Get away from it. Yeah.
And then the final one was take your annual leave, which is, I think we're all guilty of this, aren't we, really? When you work from home, it's tempting to log on to check your emails while you're meant to be away on holiday.
Yeah.
But resist the urge. And plenty of research shows that the benefits of holidays or just a proper work break can be productive. So now we can start to plan a bit. We travel May the 17th. We can start to travel abroad in theory if other countries get the COVID vaccinations up to speed. But you can plan to leave a comprehensive or handover for your colleagues if you need to do that.
Yeah.
And then when you go, and if you go away, switch off, unplug the phone, hide your laptop, don't answer emails, or if you have to, just do it once a day. And people get to know that once a day they'll get an answer from you, and at the most. But try not to check in, and try not to do those emails, and try, don't even think about sitting down at your work desk, because you just catapult yourself into that space. So some people will sort of be very jittery about the suggestion of that. But so if you really have to, as I say, make that certain time, but set an hour maybe and no more to do that, with an out of office message saying you'll pick up again tomorrow, or anything urgent you'll respond to, but otherwise just leave it. And the thought of taking a week off, does fill you with dread, then consider taking shorter breaks more often. An afternoon every week, or a full day here and there to recharge your batteries. I was once told, when I used to work at the Telegraph, I used to work very closely with the advertising sales areas, and they work with all the big agencies, etc. And they used to say to me, if you're trying to do a day off and you're planning a day off for yourself, your temptation is to take a Friday off, because you then get a long weekend mentally. Well, you can still get a long weekend if you take the Monday off, and it's much better to take the Monday, because most people you deal with, whether they're in that case agencies and the like in central London, everybody, if you take the Monday off, it's better because no one's in a good mood on the Monday, as opposed to taking a Friday. Friday, everyone's in a joyous mood, so you get more out of them. You get more agreement to do things because, let's look forward to the weekend. Monday, everyone's miserable. So take Monday off if you're going to take a day off. Don't take Friday, and just have a long weekend that way. Because when you get back on Tuesday, everyone's got over their weekend and they're back to normal again.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice.
Yeah. So that was it really. So it was it's just none of this is rocket science, is it? But it's only when you read it and someone points it out to you, it's sort of obvious that we're not doing it.
Yeah.
At large, most people aren't. It's just being conscious about doing some stuff for you rather than just for other people all the time.
Yeah.
And you're the stuff for that, because you're juggling various hats as I am. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just about having those, I think in our last session we were talking about all those moments that, actually having a chat while you're making a cup of tea with work colleagues is that important interaction and a break, which you don't have when you're working at home.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's that mundaneness almost, isn't it? And potentially just being on your own all day, it's quite hard to keep yourself sane and have those breaks.
Yeah. So anyone listening to this, take those 5 points, if you will, and just try and consider some of them. If you don't get a chance to do them all, they all sort of interlink, I guess. But at the same time, if you feel there's just one or two
Yeah.
things from that, it makes a difference. Just take time out for you. Anyway, so that's that. We'll finish on that bit. And the other thing I said we're going to talk about today is this here, billing and payments, because we've seen some big shifts in retail, for example.
Very big, yeah.
During COVID, you go to the supermarket now, and what you pay by card or you pay by your mobile, Apple Pay or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So things are shifting, and the amount of online, isn't there a talk about the government now putting a tax onto online companies because they've had such a good year, then to level up the playing field with people going back to the shops again, to put a tax on online shopping to make it more parity. But anyway, this was a research. There's a company called PPRO who are a specialist for alternative payment methods, things like online banking payments and cash payments and direct debits and wallets and all that sort of stuff. And they've done a lot of research over the past year during COVID, and I've basically come to the conclusion of what you see on the screen there now, which is that businesses could lose almost half of their customers if they don't offer a variety of payment tools. So what they're saying is, some 44% of UK consumers say they'd stop a purchase if anything online or on mobile, if their favorite payment methods wasn't available, which is interesting in itself. When asked in this survey about speed and convenience, 51% of Generation Z or Z or whatever you want to call it, currently the people up to 24 years old in the main, are future consumers for many years to come. They all agree, 51% agreed that they would avoid using retailers that require entering payment credentials every time. Now that's a fundamental shift in itself. We used to putting, but they would want to tap, which is where the Apple Pays and the like come in. The older generation show a higher tolerance, and only 30% of the baby boomers, so those born between 46 and 64, so those in their 50s and 60s, and 25% of what they call the silent generation, those born before 1946, the over 70s basically, those expressed a preference to use merchants or vendors, shops that offer one-click payments, because again, the likes of Amazon's come along, which all ages use, and it's one click, isn't it? You can just buy it very quickly.
Yeah.
It's so easy just to go buy. 2/3 of UK shoppers, 58%, would stop a purchase if the checkout process is complicated now. With millennials, even less tolerant to complicated checkout process, with 67% agreeing they will be quick to abandon their purchase.
I'm so intolerant if it's not an easy process and you've got to fill in, you have to join, sometimes you have to join their database in order to get through and everything else. I'm just like, I can't bother now.
Well, they're saying that businesses need to realize the importance of allowing their customers to make a purchase with their preferred payment method, or they run the risk of not only missing out on that single purchase, but also the potentially a loyal customer gone as well. That thing near the bottom of the screen, currently 91% of UK customers have used debit cards or credit cards for online purchases. 89% also confidently use PayPal or have used it in the past. 89%.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by that figure. I just thought that was quite high. I mean, I have used it once or twice, but I don't particularly like it. So
you were going to that figure though. It's people that all have used it in the past. So you have used it.
89% is huge, really, for that platform.
And also quite high, really, considering it's a new technology. It's 31% are confident in using mobile wallets such as Apple Pay or Google Pay. And the use of bank transfers has doubled in the past 3 years too. So there's a surprising range which businesses, small and big, can got to consider at the payment page to improve their conversion rates.
Well, I've picked up things from sort of eBay or Facebook Marketplace, and they've said, oh, do you want to pay me online? And they've given me their bank, I've gone straight into my bank on my app. They've given me their bank details and I've paid them there and then, which is just a whole different way of doing business, isn't it? Because you used to buy, cheap secondhand things based on the fact you're giving them cash. Well, people are very happy now to just do it through your app, which I think is amazing, really.
Yeah, it's true. And they sort of conclude that we all need to be aware that a slick user experience must extend to the point of purchase. A shop may have a personalized and easy to navigate website, but when a shopper who isn't satisfied with the payment methods they offer you at the end of the final stage, they'll quickly move to a competitor. So it's just a case of being warned. It's got to be slick from start to finish.
Well, people can move to a competitor so quickly and easily now, can't they?
Yeah. But basically where we are today, there are basically three areas to look at. Firstly, so it's mobile payments, which is now, smart speakers, which is definitely coming, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and the Omni Channel, which is basically all the above, plus things like in-app, as you just said, or wallet, or ease of card things like the Amazon thing. So the main one, of course, at the moment is this, which is mobile payments. And if you look, it's quite surprising. We look at the timeline of when things have come along in terms of paying for things on mobile. So you have to go back to 1999. Oh, PayPal was founded in 1998. So it's been around a while, hasn't it? But it's still not on everyone's conscious.
Yeah, eBay started around that time, didn't it?
That's right, it did. It did. So they've taken a while to actually establish themselves properly. But now, it will probably get more and more prominent as we go, I would imagine. Movie tickets could be bought through mobile back in 1999. But again, it was still the early days. Domino's offered pizza through mobile 2001. Donations, you'd be interested in this one, to non-profit organizations, so SMS. The whole thing that you see on TV now of, children in need and the like. That started in 2004. And then I think what's quite interesting is 2011, Google introduced its wallet service. In 2014, Apple introduced PayPal, so it's not that long ago. But it's still getting a foothold, isn't it, with many people, I guess. And then 2015, we've had Samsung and Android become available too. So it's becoming the era now for all these types of things, which is why people should sit up and take note. To be business, you've got to offer these things. So in terms of the present day, it's basically four things. So contactless payments, there as the name suggests, it's, contactless payment don't involve any contact with, with the device and the reader. That's you going to your supermarket and going to Waitrose and tap it in and get your stuff that way. It lets customers tap a credit card or wave their phone over the reader to make the payments. And it's faster in comparison to inserting or swiping a card, of course. And companies like Google and Samsung and Apple, and they've got their own things, as we said earlier. And there's a huge possibility of them growing further due to the many factors like contactless card availability, customer demand, because they'll all want it now, gone through COVID, having gone through 12 months of using this sort of method, and business adoption. So, that's got to be borne in mind. Contactless card availability. It's an interesting comparison. At the start of 2020, the new figures for this year aren't out yet, but the penetration of contactless cards there's only a survey in the US this, but you can imagine the UK is going to be similar. In the US, it is the lowest in the world, but it's quickly caught up because of COVID. So there's a survey by this company called A.T. Kearney who said the contactless card payments in the US were very small, but they're now getting up to something like 60%. And we are finding that we are way over 60% now, any more like 70%.
Well, a lot of shops stopped taking cash, didn't they?
Yeah.
A friend of mine's husband was made redundant because they were a company that moved cash around, and obviously a lot of the shops were either closed or weren't taking cash anymore, so they had to make a lot of people redundant.
Visa said that there were 300 million contactless cards issued in the US alone by the end of last year, and that was all through COVID. There's 350 million people in the country, in the US.
Different
300 million contactless cards.
As we
So
said
they
earlier,
suddenly catapulted themselves.
yeah, COVID has accelerated so many different things, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, early adoption and suddenly bam, it's, you know, mainstream.
Business adoption. So the conditions of business and infrastructure largely influence the payment choices of the people. So here in the UK, we serve as a best example, actually. So as there was a mass migration towards contactless payments when, you know, London's underground tube system decided to adopt it as their payment method. Same in the States, you know, we saw something similar happening there last year. The New York subway has now decided to offer contactless debit and credit cards. You know, and that might can trigger the contactless payment revolution, similar to we've got it in the UK as it's starting to be. So it's just looking at the trends around the world for where things are happening, and it's all being adopted now. And the final one was consumer demand. So there's a high demand, as we said, for customer and from customers for contactless payments, because it is, and people are seeing it. It is simple, it is secure, and it is swift. So, you know, consumers prefer contactless modes of payments as it reduced their time waiting at the checkouts, as we've all found in the last 12 months.
Well, isn't it fascinating, the new Amazon shop?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So you don't even have to hang around, just walk out. It feels like you're stealing.
Yeah. That's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, it's just food, etc., isn't it, and suppliers at the moment. But yeah, very interesting to see how that develops.
And people are realizing, I think, which is contribution to the demand, is that using a mobile for paying for something is more secure than using a credit card, because consumers' card details, when you're using it as a phone, are never revealed in the contactless payments. So it makes it more secure than a typical card on it alone.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, cool. Because when you tap on, all that happens is you get, you're paid. There's no keying in numbers. There's no numbers on the screen. So that's where we are at the moment. But what's coming next is smart speakers. So you know, most people have got one now. They're whether it's Alexa or Google Home or whatever, and all these home assistants have, you know, seen a massive growth over recent years generally, and all the big boys are now in the space, whether it's Amazon, Google, Apple. They've all come forward with smart speakers. Amazon were the first to release their smart speaker. When was that? Do you remember? When would you say that was? How long ago?
I bought one of the original Echo Dots, so that would have been about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, you're right, exactly right. So it's 2014, just come 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas Google only came out with their Google Home 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It seems like they've all been around. Apple Assistant 3 years ago. So it seems like they've been around for years and years and years, but it's because they've suddenly become ubiquitous in our lives.
Yeah.
But, you know, so they receive the voice command, as you know, from the user. And of course, getting the users can give different kinds of commands, like booking Uber. You can do that now. You can get information about the nearest restaurant or the weather, or there's an obvious next step, therefore. So many companies have shown a keen interest in incorporating their payments into smart speakers. So, for example, Domino's, and we mentioned Domino's being one of the forefront leaders in the mobile space on the earlier slide, but Domino's has now allowed all users to place orders through Amazon Echo and to link to your Amazon account. Whichever card you've got linked on the Amazon account is linked to that. So you can pay for a pizza via Amazon Echo.
Wow.
It's
so
quite,
Apple are likely to go the same route, aren't they?
They'll all follow suit, no doubt about it. But you can see it's an obvious step, isn't it? You can see this is going to be a big thing next. So, and then of course, just moving to the Omni Channel thing, which is basically, you know, shopping habits. It's just embracing all the things we've talked about and more. So the shopping habits of customers have evolved quickly, of course, after the penetration of the smartphone generally. But in-app payments and one-click commerce have gained popularity too. So, you know, nowadays, many businesses are learning to manage all these multiple channels for payments. And by applying an omni-channel payment strategy, offering all the things that we mentioned earlier, the business or the store or whatever it might be, can boost their in-store sales, their efficiency of, maybe their post-sales too, or their customer satisfaction, and reduce the case of fraud. If you look at things like more biometrics are going to be coming to the fore, more fingerprints, retina, iris, voice recognition, vein infrared thermograms, eye scanning. And that's why the store that you mentioned are going to be coming more into the fore, because they're getting more secure in themselves as well.
Yeah.
Because you can't replicate it unless it's actually you, your vein structure or whatever it might be. So it's something to watch out for. As the short of all of that, smart speakers are on the way in terms of payment mechanism too. And whether you're a small or big business, there are lots of people looking at this space now, and we should be aware of it to just keep ahead. Because going back to that very first slide, the bottom line is that, for the research, it shows that we could potentially lose half of our customers if we don't offer all the favorite methods that people want in terms of paying for things and make it easy. There's a lot of friction. There's been a lot of friction. I think the early days of mobile payments, the problem was a lot of friction. It was difficult. It never quite smooth was the thing, but it's getting that way now because it's had to be going. It's like the vaccine. Normally a vaccine would take 10 years to develop, but we've had to get it quicker because we've just had to get it quicker. It's the same with mobile. To get the thing advanced, if we've had to sort of move quickly with things and get the technology working quicker.
Well, we've also been forced into it. I suppose there is some consumer demand now because everyone was forced to use it. It was the only way that you could actually pay for certain things. So it has been accelerated so much by COVID, hasn't it?
It has. So anyway, there we go. I thought people might like to hear about that. It's about keeping on top of things, but at the same time, save time for yourself and all of this at home.
Yeah, time for me.
Time for me indeed.
So I can do shopping.
And the other thing, just to end the show with today, is something we mentioned at the start, because we have got some great guests coming up.
We have, haven't we?
And in fact, if I just go to the next slide, we can give an example of a couple. So do you want to tell us about the first one?
Yeah, well, Dr. Fox, for those of you that are slightly older, might remember him doing the chart shows, and he was on Capital. I worked with him at Capital FM, and he has graciously agreed to join us on the 29th to talk about all the things that he's now up to. And great guy, great broadcaster. And I've already had an hour's natter with him on radio and how radio's changed over the years. And indeed, we're now doing this show sort of online and through YouTube. So he's going to be great to talk to about what he's up to now. And
the second one, so he's coming on at the end of the month, I believe. And then in April, we have Mark Thompson. Now, you may or may not know, and many people will know, but in case you don't, but Mark was in fact the CEO of the BBC, and he is the person responsible for bringing the iPlayer to people. So that's an amazing thing in itself, an incredible thing. So he was responsible for driving the BBC into the digital age. And I use the BBC, and I know a lot of people at the BBC still to this day. And I refer to them sometimes when we do things like for my association to tell them, what are the BBC doing? Because we'd like to follow you and do what you're doing, because they do some amazingly groundbreaking stuff. So Mark was behind that for many years. And then he went as CEO to the New York Times, one of the biggest newspaper operations in the world. And he's led that into the digital age, and now has led it to a place where he has some like 4 million subscribers to the New York Times. Amazing. And he's recently left there, and he's now CEO of Ancestry.co.uk, as well as joining the board of Axel Springer, one of the biggest media companies in Europe. They're based in Germany. So he's quite a guy. And in fact, only as recent as this week, I'm doing a webinar this week with the owners of the Miami Herald and a lot of the smaller newspapers in this country, actually, called Gannett. And I'm interviewing the CEO for that. And he said to me in a rehearsal I did with him last week, oh, I'll be mentioning Mark Thompson. Like, oh, right, yeah, because I've always looked up to what he's done. And, I'm sure you won't be displeased with what I'm going to say about him. I'm like, oh, that's great, because he's coming on our radio show. So
he's really been a trailblazer, hasn't he, Mark?
He has indeed, yeah, and continues to be. So we'll have a great session with him. I think that's the middle of April. So they're just two of the guests we've got coming up, and we've got some other great guests, hopefully, as well, in the world of music and other things as well. So everyone out there, stick with us. It's going to be a great year in all sorts of ways. We're going to ease into lockdown, but we're going to ease up or ramp up the guests that we've got on the show and what subject we're going to talk about.
They need to follow us on Facebook at the
Yes,
UK
indeed.
Brand Show, and on Twitter, and go to our website, theukbrandshow.co.uk, to listen to old shows.
Indeed, you can. So we'll be back very soon.
We
For
will.
more of the same. And so I thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for listening, whichever platform you're on. And we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.